Okay, we're live. I'm here with Natalie MacNeil, who is one of my long-standing clients. She's been one of the most fun and
Yay!
has afforded me the most freedom on projects. And so we worked together for, I think, I don't know, 4 years. I don't even know how long it's been, but we've been through a lot together. And so I thought she would be the perfect person to bring on to chat a little bit. So for anyone that doesn't know you already, Natalie, what do you do? How do you introduce yourself to people?
That's a good question. How do I introduce myself? I'd say that I'm best known as the creator of shetakesontheworld.com, which is a Forbes recognized leader in women's entrepreneurship and training for women entrepreneurs. So we've been listed by Forbes on top 10 sites for entrepreneurial women, as well as on the Forbes list of the top 100 sites for women, alongside powerhouses like Oprah and Rachel Ray. So that's something we are really, really proud of. And I think something that sets us apart from other websites and training that's out there. And then I run the Conquer Club, which is our business mentoring program and business incubator for entrepreneurs. And before that, I had a media and production company, and I'm an Emmy award-winning producer. So that's always been part of my life too. And that's why you'll see a lot of video content on She Takes on the World. We're all about visuals and video and new media and like merging it all into a really cool experience, which is where you came in, because we're always trying to create, an amazing experience for the people who are coming to shetakesontheworld.com. So I guess that's how I would, that's me. That's what I'm working on in a nutshell.
It's an amazing amount to have accomplished by your age, and I'm so curious. I know we've had some conversations about this, but how does one get there? What does that trajectory look like? What have been some of the things that have influenced you along the way? I know you were born ambitious, but I want to know what some of those stepping stones have been for you along the way.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I would say that, so I travel a lot. And I would say that travel has been one of my biggest influencers, like above anything else. I think it impacts how I do business, how I see the world, how I see myself. It's the reason why I have what I call a conscious company. So a conscious company meaning that I want to make meaning. I want to make an impact and not just make money. And I think there have been a lot of people I've been inspired by and that I take like bits of inspiration from, but I don't look to one person to idolize, because I think that's when you start letting sort of their thoughts and their ideas creep into your own work. Like I can't even read other nonfiction books when I'm working on my next book, because I want it to be my voice and not have their voice creeping into it. So in terms of people influencing me, I kind of I tread very carefully. And yeah, those have been some of my influencers. And I think, some of us just have an innate drive, and I think we all want different things, and that's a really beautiful thing. So what I want, someone else might not want, and that's perfectly okay. I still help entrepreneurs get what they want and recognize that not everybody necessarily has the kind of ambition that I do. I mean, with a name like She Takes on the World, I have to be ambitious. It's a big name to live up to. So
the reputation to uphold. And you've had some pretty amazing mentors in your life too, right? Like you won you won that opportunity. Was it to be mentored with Arianna Huffington?
yeah, I got an award from her and Donna Karen of DKNY and Sarah Brown, who was the First Lady of the UK at the time. And it was an award for 25 most inspiring young Americans. And so we had the opportunity to meet those women. And then I had an opportunity to personally meet with Arianna Huffington too. And yeah, I do have some good mentors. I also look at mentoring different than a lot of other people. So I don't necessarily look at mentoring as, you go and have a coffee with that person once a week and you're speaking to them on a very regular basis. I've sought out mentors who, meet with me sometimes only a couple times ever, because they are really busy people, but you can still get advice from those people, and that advice has pushed me into my next best step. So with somebody like Ariana Huffington when I was 24 years old and building my business, her meeting with me really helped me with those next steps to take. And Arlene Dickinson is another great example. She's you may not know if you're outside of Canada, but in Canada, she's a star on Dragon's Den and on other television shows, and is a really powerful and successful female entrepreneur. And she has sat down with me a couple times to give me, again, advice that pushes me in the direction of the next best steps that I should be taking. So I've had a lot of mentors come into my life, and they're not always people that are meeting with me on a very regular basis. Now, I do have some of those too, like Alan Corey, who's a big marketing entrepreneur and has built a big communications firm, and is also one of my investors at She Takes on the World, Inc. He has been fantastic, and I can shoot him an email or arrange a lunch with him, and that's really helpful. And I try to save my mentoring for when it is an emergency. So I know that I have all these powerful people in my Rolodex, and I use them when I really, really need them. And I make sure that when I have a question for them, it's a really good question that I'm not just wasting their time on. And I pride myself on, asking them intelligent questions where afterwards they'll usually be like, that is a really great question. Like, let me think about that. And they tell me that I ask good questions. You don't want to have an opportunity to be in front of a powerful person and be like, so, what got you here? Or what's the biggest mistake that you have made? Like questions that you could pretty much look up an interview that someone has done with them and find the answer to. So I try to go in for those really deep questions when I really need them for an emergency situation. And, I've had a lot of powerful people come through for me on that. And I'm really grateful that I've been able to get so much great advice from really awesome, successful people.
Yeah, it sounds almost like you take your inspiration from everywhere, like your travels, everyday life, the people that you're meeting, you're kind of always observing and always taking inspiration from the people in your life, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, inspiration is everywhere if you're open to it, right?
Absolutely. I'm just so impressed by the sheer volume of projects you have going on. And I know you've said this before, that you're like, it's my team. I have a team of people, and so I'm so curious, first of all, what a day in your life looks like, and how you manage the sheer volume of tasks that you need to get done, the projects, like how you I know that you plan, a year in advance, sometimes a year and a half. So I'd love to know, just how do you manage all of that information and just all of that, how do you prioritize when everything is important?
I'm laughing because I'm definitely not perfect when it comes to that. I mean, there's still days where you look at your calendar and you're like, oh my goodness, where do I even start today? But I use Asana quite a bit, and that's sort of what my team will work in as well for launches. And I am very much a Moleskine kind of girl as well. So when my next book is done, I'm definitely the next book after that is gonna be a whole planning system, because I love my Moleskine and I can't just do digital for my planning, but I also have to really modify these books to make them work for me. So, I split them up in my own ways and try to, plan them in a way that works for me, because they're not always the best.
And what do you, how might you use your paper Moleskine versus Asana? I'd love to know, what is it about the paper, and kind of how do you make the most use of it?
I like my checklists. I like having everything in a record that I can see as well. So they're a little out of reach right now on my bookshelf, but all of my plans going back to 2010, actually, let me grab this because this is cool. So these are my bigger plans. And then I break all of these down into my annual Moleskine. So this is my 2010, 2011 strategic plan. And I keep it just because I think it's good to look back. If you're not looking back, you can't really see the baby steps that you are making along the way. I think it's very easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and feel like you're not moving forward. But back in 2010, this was my 5-year plan from my strategic plan. And I said in 2010, I wanted to grow She Takes on the World to 5,000 monthly visitors. And we're like way beyond that now. I wanted to launch my first ebook. I wanted to hire a virtual assistant. That was only 5 years ago. And then, you know, I won't go through all of it, but going into 2011, I wanted to write my first book. And then that book ended up coming out in 2012. 2011, I also wanted to incorporate She Takes on the World and really invest in that solid foundation for the company. I wanted to hit 10,000 subscribers in 2012. And going into 2013, I wanted to launch a brand new website, which we did. I wanted to grow to 25,000 subscribers. These are all things that I set in 2010. And actually, what I said was, this was written on January 2nd, 2010. I said, in 5 years, in 2015, I will have a strong brand with recognition around the world. I will have at least 100,000 subscribers and over $1 million in revenue. I'll be working on my second or third book, this time with a major publishing house. And if this wasn't the craziest plan in the world and I actually make it happen, well, then the 5-year plan to bring me from 2015 to 2020 will need to be pretty fucking epic. And that's what I said like 5 years ago. So I think, you know, along the way, along the last 5 years, it's been a series of small steps that have gotten me to where I am. And sometimes I feel like I wish I was further ahead. I feel like I could be doing even more. But then when I look back at that, I'm like, wow, that's pretty awesome, because I've done all of those things. But in 2010, those were all just, they were all just dreams, right? And then this has been my latest plan that I've been working off of. So I need my paper, like I need everything in these books, because I need to be able to keep them. And I know that you can keep digital too, but for me, it's just not the same.
There's
like
a bit more creativity, it feels like, right? You can just kind of...
Yes, and as you know, because you're designing this with me, that's what the Conquer Kit is, which is the next book, right? It's a creative way of planning your business. And really, this is how I plan my business every year. And Marie is doing a beautiful job designing all of this. This is all Marie's design. And this is the next book that I got the book deal for with Penguin Random House for. So, I mean, that's how I like to plan. And I think there's a lot of other people out there who like planning on paper too. I don't think I'm alone in that. And when I have all of my tasks in my phone in an app, yes, I can go back and kind of see what I've been working on, but it's not the same as being able to say, okay, what were my 3 big picture goals in 2012? And how did those help get me to where I am now? I'm big on connecting the dots, like looking back and connecting dots and seeing how everything has come together and seeing how you're spinning that web that is moving you forward. So that's why I choose to do all this stuff on paper. And yes, I saw my digital tools too. I'm not totally, you know, from 1994, but I need my paper.
No, I think you're right. And something that you inspired me to do was, it might have been during your Conquer Summit a while back, I'm not sure, or sort of your year-end review, where 1 is making it visible, but 2 is also breaking up your yearly goals into categories, like a health category or, you know, different parts of your business, right? So it's not just 3 kind of vague goals. You actually have these sub goals throughout the year, right? And I think making that visible has been a really, really, I've just noticed a really huge difference in my own business when it's something I can see every day. It's on the wall, it's beside my computer. I know exactly what I'm working towards.
Yeah.
I'm curious how often...
balanced ambition.
I love that.
Every month there's a goal for health and wellness. There's a goal for relationships, because I think as entrepreneurs, sometimes we get so caught up in the business. Like, I actually have to make appointments and make time for, like, okay, this is when you're going to call your mother. This is when you're going to talk to your sisters. Otherwise, I get so caught up in everything that's going on, and I need to like get myself out of that tornado and just make time for the people who I care about. And if I'm not making the time or setting those goals, it often, you know, ends up being on the back burner, and I don't want that to be happening. So I call this my like balanced ambition plan, where every month I have these goals for giving back, for health and wellness, for relationships. Of course, there's going to be like a career money goal in there, but there's a lot of other things to strive towards in life too. So
I love that. Something I've always been fascinated about is your ability to see the high level stuff, but you're also very savvy on a technical level too. Like knowing what you need in terms of like how you segment your email list, and pulling off a launch, and knowing all the details that you need to pull together to make it happen. Where did that marketing savvy come from? How do you know how to blow a launch out of the water?
That's a good question. I think so some of the books that I love to read are things like Mastery or Good to Great. I've always been big on reading these sort of business and leadership books for our time. And I get a lot of inspiration from there, just in terms of the focus that it takes, and always learning and working your brain in different ways too. So, there's a lot of things that I don't necessarily like to learn, and I'll usually learn them and then I delegate them to somebody else on my team. So I like to have the basic understanding, and then I think I'm very good at assembling the people who can put all of those pieces together, because otherwise I think that's when you get stuck. People try to learn a lot of things on their own and put it all together, and I've done that. I've had the launches like years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, where I was putting together all of these pieces myself and launching, and it's so time consuming, and I'm not the best person to do that. Like if I sat down with you and we were both doing, some updates on a membership site, like you're gonna kill my time. You're gonna be done and I'm gonna be like, oh my goodness, I'm still on this like first little part. Like you would kick my ass in that area, because it's totally your genius zone and something that you're really good at. Like you are so good at the tech and the design, and like just marrying all of that together. And that's why I want somebody like you working with me on all those pieces. I could try to figure it out all by myself, but then I wouldn't get nearly as many things done in my year. And I always have a lot of things I want to do. So you need a team for that, right?
But it sounds like you kind of did the DIY in the beginning enough so that you know what the effort is required, and that probably makes it easier for you to hire the right people on your team, because you know exactly what it takes. Yes. And what those roles are going to be.
For sure. And the other thing is that when I had my production and media company, we did a lot of online experiences for film and television. We built out these like multiple 6-figure website projects with like streaming and 360-degree video and all of this stuff. And I managed programmers, I managed designers. That's what I did as a producer on these huge digital projects. So I learned to speak their language a little bit, and I think that made me a lot more tech savvy, because I was always around programmers. And I took a few computer science courses in university, and my boyfriend is a developer as well, and those are things that I like just having a basic knowledge of, because I think it helps when you go into a project. I mean, I know entrepreneurs, I've worked with entrepreneurs who get really frustrated with designers or developers, and I have to sit down with them and say, okay, I understand your frustration, but did you do this and this and this? And that's why I think for designers, one of the biggest jobs that you have is the communication piece. The best designers I've ever worked with, what makes them so amazing is that they're also excellent communicators, not just incredible at making a great graphic or designing the perfect website that flows so nicely. And that's one of the things that I most appreciated about working with you, and why I never want you to leave me ever, is because you really get that communication piece. Most of your work, I think, on any job when you're designing or developing something is in the beginning. Like we would spend on these big projects so much time just setting expectations and doing wireframes and making sure that both parties were on the same page before moving forward. And I think even for me and you, I think we spent several months, like maybe at least a couple months, of going back and forth and talking and doing a brand board and choosing fonts and looking at the wireframes and the overall flow and user experience before we ever designed anything, right? So I think sometimes people want to dive in and just start working and start creating, but there's all these steps that need to happen first. And so I think I'm good at figuring out all those steps that need to happen first, so that I can better communicate what I need to somebody. And then even still, like you're not perfect all the time. And there's times that I come to you, and now that we're so close, I just will come to you like, I'm thinking about this, and like, what are your thoughts on this? And it's not as, if I was working with somebody new, I'd be like, okay, here's the full plan, right? So sometimes when you've been working with people for a long time, and I found this in the production company too, you just kind of know, people, their expertise, what you can give them. And Yeah, I think it's good to have that basic knowledge, but it's all about delegating if you're going to get a lot done and achieve a lot. You just can't do it all on your own.
I love that.
But
And
that
that's
was like the longest answer ever.
no, it's great. So, I mean, obviously, good communication is the biggest key, and something that I encourage a lot of designers to do, and I think you hit the nail on the head, was that like you and I don't have to start from scratch every time even if we want to build a new site. We're not usually going through wireframes again. We've established such a rapport. We know what your goals are, and we trust each other. There's a certain level of trust that we don't have to kind of go through such a formal process anymore, right? So I think it's so important for designers to be able to adapt to their clients as well. Like not every client is going to understand even how to read a wireframe. Like, what is this? Like, where's the color? Like, so I think it's important to kind of understand where your client is at, even in their knowledge of design and their sort of skill set, even with business, and kind of meet them where they're at. I think that is so, so important.
Yeah, I think that's always, it's so key, I think, to being successful in this industry. And look, when I was a producer and we worked with all these designers and developers, I mean, that is just the biggest flaw I saw in a lot of people, was that they didn't have the organizational skills and they weren't meeting the client where they were at the time. And that's so important. So yeah, I think exactly what you said. You have to meet people where they are. And sometimes you'll get a client who's like really savvy and you maybe have a different working relationship with them. And then there's other people who haven't been through this experience before, and you have to go through and explain everything in so much detail and make sure you have all the deliverables laid out in a contract. And you have to make sure you're communicating what you expect from them as well. Because I still talk to people who think that, a designer just kind of does everything, develops everything. And they sometimes aren't clear that, okay, you need to provide all the copy for each page and lay that out. You need to provide all the images that are going on certain pages. There's stuff you need to do as well, but designers don't always communicate that to their clients very clearly.
Very interesting. And that's something I've encouraged a lot of designers to do is, obviously your web copy is the first place that you should be letting people know what you actually do. It needs to be really clear that you do or don't do copy. Like that's something that I'll take on with clients, but most designers don't necessarily touch a client's copy. I have no problem diving in and being like, that's maybe not the most effective headline. Like, here's how I might reword that. It's okay if you don't want to do that, but I think the more you can set expectations up front about, yes, I'm a technical person. No, I'm not. I recommend a developer for that, and we work together, and just setting those expectations up front, I think are super important. So some kind of welcome document, your website copy, all of that's really, really important. I know when you and I were first doing, I think it was the She Takes on the World site, you said that you had a friend who could not believe how much you were willing to pay to redo the site. Just like, why on earth would you put, like, that is crazy just for a design, right? And so you had to explain to her there's, I mean, of course, it's not just design. It's also, there's user experience. There's like marketing goals. You're designing to reach marketing goals. And I think that collaboration was a huge part of leveling up She Takes on the World, right? So
absolutely, yeah. And I think you needed, like, that whole year, basically from 2011, when I decided I wanted to incorporate and work on She Takes on the World full time and leave production behind, although I'm still producing, but it's just in a different capacity for my audience here at She Takes on the World. And at the time, it was all about those foundational pieces. So investing in a great lawyer for the incorporation and to get everything set up properly, investing in an amazing site and a good Conquer Club experience too, and taking all the resources that we had and just putting them towards that foundation. And that meant, I didn't take a salary or anything that year, because everything was about building a strong foundation that would allow us to grow to the level that I want to grow to. And we're still investing in that foundation. And, we did a lot of work to the Conquer Club site last year with you redesigning a lot of that. And, there are some tweaks that we'll make this year. But I think for the last 2 years, we've just kind of slowly been building out all of these pieces. And now this year there's, the new book and a site for that and a couple other projects that will have sites. So now it just feels like there's so many web pages that we have, and it was necessary though. And over the last couple of years, we've been putting all those pieces into place. And yes, it is a really big investment, and that has meant making sacrifices on my end. It requires me to take as little as I can out of the company. This is really the first year that I'm taking a salary, which a lot of people would probably be surprised to hear, because She Takes on the World is really successful and we've been meeting all of our revenue goals, and yet I still continue to pump a lot of that money back into the company, and I take just the minimum that I need for my living expenses and all that. But I'm not taking that money out of the company and saying, woo, like let's go blow all this cash. It's about investing and continuing to invest in that foundation so that you're setting yourself up for long-term growth, not just for that short-term gain, which, some people are happy staying in a certain place and it supporting their lifestyle. And that's great. You can stay and be comfortable in a place for a long time. People used to say this to me with the production company, like, why wouldn't you just kind of stay? You can make a 6-figure salary and just work, part-time, and you have all this extra time. And I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do with all that extra time? Pardon my language. If I'm supposed to work 20 hours a week now, like I would go nuts. And sometimes that's what people want though. People are like, that's amazing. If you can get paid a 6-figure salary and work part-time, that's like the dream, but it's not my dream. It's not everybody's dream. I want to work. I've told Marie, I've told you this, like I want to work for many, many years. Like I've talked to you about like 50-year plans and visions. Like I'm in this for the long run. This is not something that I plan on doing and like, woohoo, like freedom 40 and I'm done. I'm retired. Like I love my work. So it all just comes down to what you really want. And I think you need to invest in the things that you really want long-term. And for me, She Takes on the World has been that thing. And I think the reason why I have a team that has actually stuck with me for a long time. I have people who, are not leaving me after 6 months of working with me because I'm a total nightmare and don't have my shit together. Like people come and work with me and they actually stick around. And when I say, look, I love working with you, I want this to continue, people usually say, yes, I would love to be part of this and have that role. I think I'm good at just giving people work that they are good at doing and love doing. And I don't micromanage everything. It's like, here's your piece of the puzzle, do a great job, here are my expectations, go. And I think that's sort of why I have this team that has stuck around and why I have amazing people like you who will actually work with me a second time.
It just in an ongoing capacity. You trust people to do what they're most skilled at, right? And so I think
unless you're sitting there right now thinking like, oh, I'm totally sick of her.
Totally sick of her, just interviewing her because she's the most terrible client. No, I think it's you touched upon it. Success looks different for everyone, right? And so I think it's okay for businesses to look different for everyone. Not everyone should feel like they have to teach, or have to create an online course or an ebook or whatever. But that does bring me to one point, which I think is it's really good to diversify your income and your income sources, right? And I'm sure you'd have a lot to say about that, all of your income doesn't come from a book or a course or a retreat. You have sort of multiple ways that you bring in your income. And so I'd love to know a little bit more about even how your income is divided across all of these different places, and where does the majority of your income come from?
Yeah, good question. So most 7-figure businesses have at least 7 streams of revenue. And you've probably heard this before. Most 6-figure businesses is something like at least 3 or 4 as well. So looking at all of that, I think you have to slowly create more revenue streams over time. You can't have all of your eggs in one basket. And the key here is over time. You don't have to go away now and be like, oh, for the next 6 months, I need to create all these new revenue streams. It's about doing one, doing it well, and then going to the next. So for me, we have different products, those being my books and meditation album, and there's a couple other things that we will sell. We do affiliate partnerships sometimes when something is a good fit and aligned with our audience. So, that's another stream. I do speaking engagements, especially because those push things like the book and the meditation album. Still, the Conquer Club is our main thing that we are staying laser focused on right now. And I think you need that one thing that you just put a lot more resources into than the others. So that is our main product. And we have a retreat and conference that we do as well. So that's kind of part of the Conquer Club, but that's another revenue stream. And so this whole Conquer brand is really where our focus is right now. It's very scalable, and we invest a lot into still maintaining an amazing experience as we do scale that. So, there's lots of ways that you can add revenue streams to your business. And, you touched on not everyone wanting to teach. Like if you're a designer, you may not want to teach a course. That may not be what you're passionate about. So you shouldn't do it. It's not for everybody. Maybe you create packages that you can sell, graphics packages. Maybe you work on building out a bit of an agency like what I used to have, and having people who work under you so that you're not doing all of the smaller detail work that you may not enjoy doing. You may enjoy overseeing the bigger picture, and maybe you don't. But I think for a lot of creatives, you need that bigger picture thinker. So if you're working by yourself, you really have to look at, are you the best person to be leading and to be keeping your eye on that bigger picture? Or are you the person who wants to be doing all the design and kind of doing the work in the business because you are a creator and that's what you love doing? And in that case, you may need to hire that bigger picture person to work with you and have that duo and that dynamic happening. So I think it's just about slowly opening yourself up to more possibilities in the business, and there's always a product you can find to sell. So I know that as a designer, you guys have so many skill sets that you can put into developing a product that can be sold. And I've seen designers successfully do that, like with graphics packages or templates and things like that. So it's about slowly increasing the streams of revenue, and then investing some of that money too in other things, whether it's starting a new venture or investing in, I have a stock portfolio and other investments that I make too, although right now I bet mostly on myself and the returns that I can get myself. So a lot of that is going into other ventures that will be rolling out under the Natalie MacNeil brand.
Very cool. I'd love to know what some of those things that where you've invested your money over the years have actually really been beneficial, whether it is hiring a coach or whether it's just that you're always reading a new book. Like, where are some of those places that you've actually decided to invest your time and money that you've said, well, that was a really amazing investment?
Yeah. I go to a lot of events where the right people are going to be, where really successful people are going to be. I think it's important to surround yourself with people who are in the trenches and working on things that you can relate to. I think you need that. You just feed off of each other. So I invest in high level events. I do read a lot. I invest in a lot of books. I spend a lot of time reading. Right now I'm reading Essentialism. It's awesome how focusing on fewer things will get you a lot more.
Love that.
And Disciplined, I think the subtitle is actually The Disciplined Pursuit of Less. And it's a really great book. And Smart Cuts is the next one that I already have on my table. So hopefully I'll be done Essentialism soon. So I'm always reading and learning from other people. I love that. Other things I invest in is just you've got to invest in marketing yourself. You've got to invest in having an amazing brand that you're proud of, and then just like marketing the heck out of it. You really do.
This is a great, pardon my throat. So this is a great subject of conversation, because I know a lot of designers are introverted, and I know I myself too. For many years, clients find me, and I'm like, "Yay! I didn't have to put any effort into that, and I'll just keep working with these awesome clients. Word of mouth, that's great." And word of mouth is, I think, a really great way to get work. But marketing for introverts or marketing for people that don't want to feel slimy or salesy. What are your best tips for people starting to get more comfortable with putting themselves out there? And when you say being willing to market yourself, what could that look like for a designer?
Yeah, so I think you have so many opportunities now because of social media and because you can hide behind a computer a lot of the time. So while it's awesome when I'm out giving a keynote speech and I get to be meeting people in person, and I think that personal connection is really great and is fantastic for marketing, there's also so much that you can do online. You can be writing guest posts, you can be doing Facebook ads campaigns, you can be doing remarketing campaigns, and being seen across multiple sites. That doesn't require you to be out talking to anybody. You just have to, you have to go and have a good photo shoot with a photographer so that the picture captures you and is going to be a strong image. But there's so many things that you can do to just get yourself out there online. And you need to be doing that. That's where all of your opportunities lie. And at the end of the day, it's your personal brand that matters more than anything else, because you've got that no matter what else happens. I know that if everything was just gone and disappeared from my business, if She Takes on the World was gone, I know that me as a personal brand, like, I could still make it. I've also had so many job opportunities because of my personal brand, which is really neat, because when I was planning on starting my own business out of university, there were a lot of people who were like, why would you do that? You should go and get work experience first. And just last year, I actually had a recruiter contact me to go in for an interview for a very high profile position. And I just did it for shits and giggles. I thought it was awesome. I was like, of course I'm going to go in and like talk about this opportunity. I just want to know like what I'm worth to somebody else.
Oh, interesting.
And, they were willing to pay me a multiple six-figure salary to join their company. And had I just got a job after university and worked my way up the ladder, there is absolutely no way I would have been at that wage right now. I would have maybe got a raise of, I don't know what a standard raise is, like 3% a year, 4% a year. And I think that's good these days. Like if you're getting a 4% a year raise, that's amazing. Not everybody gets that. So there's no way I would have come anywhere close to that, but that shows you the power of having such a strong personal brand. So I know that if I'm building my own brand and putting myself out there, that there are so many opportunities that will come to me in a lot of different forms too, not necessarily through She Takes on the World. And now I have opportunities to get these publishing deals and write books and speak to larger audiences. And those are things that are so powerful and would not have happened if I wasn't afraid, or if I was afraid rather, of standing on the rooftop and shouting out about myself and my brand. It's something that is really uncomfortable, but you just have to do it. And I can't even tell you how to prepare for that. Like for a lot of us, it's a really scary thing. I think as long as your messaging is feeling authentic to you and feels aligned with your values, then it's fine. Like I'm doing Facebook ads right now, and some people say, oh, Facebook ads, like eye roll because there's so many ads that are like, hey, I'm sitting on a beach with my laptop and working like 5 hours a week and making millions of dollars. Like you can do it too. And it's such BS. And I think that turns off other people who, otherwise might be advertising on Facebook. And they're just like, no one wants to see Facebook ads anymore, just because they're kind of sick of seeing the garbage ads. But I mean, there's a way that you, right now we have this campaign happening, and the conversion rate is really great. And actually some of the copy that I'm writing right now for the campaign is like, are you tired of being told you can lay on a beach and make millions of dollars? Like that is not what we're about at She Takes on the World. And maybe you just haven't found the right community yet. So, it's along those lines where I'm actually poking fun at all these people who are so annoying, saying like, you should be making millions of dollars. And by the way, you can make millions of dollars while not even lifting a finger.
I love that you've
do
said
it in
that.
your own way.
Yeah, I love that you've said that, because I think a lot of people are are feeling that same, at least I know I do too. I'm not about to tell anybody that running your own business is easy, and there's something, it makes people feel insecure, I think, and it's not very empowering when you see people sort of, I'm on a beach, I'm making lots of money, it's super easy, all you have to do is this 1, 2, 3-step process. But business isn't a 1, 2, 3-step process. And I think even, even if you have a successful launch, that doesn't mean here's my 3 steps to a this amount launch. Like, my launch is not going to be the same as your launch, is not going to be the same as somebody else's launch. And I think it comes back to that success looks different for everyone, and we need to really define what success we want, and also find the community of people that will help you get there, right? So I think that, like you said, surrounding yourself with the people that actually support that vision and kind of get you and understand you is super important. So I love that you poke fun at that.
Yeah.
you have a certain fearlessness about you that I think is pretty unique. I don't know a lot of people that.
You're just showering me with so many compliments.
It's true. I mean, working with you, I've learned a lot from you. I do. I learn from everybody that I work with, and so, are you fearless, or have you just learned how to manage your fear?
Yes, I think it's more about the management of fear. I mean, you're always going to have it. There's no way you're going to get to a point where you are not scared at all. I'm always having those fears creep in, especially when I'm doing things like launching. Like, that can be one of the scariest things because you put yourself out there in such a big way. And at the same time, I just know that you have to go for it. Like, you've got this one life. You have a purpose. There are things that you need to do. I know that when I sort of ignore those callings of my soul and like those whispers, they just end up like screaming at me, like, you need to do this. And so for me, I want it more than I'm afraid of it at this point. Like, all of these things that do bring up a lot of fear for me, at the same time, the want, the need to have it and to make that a reality is so much stronger. So, and again, this is why I always spend time learning different things. I'm not just studying business and going to business events, but a lot of people don't know that I'm also a meditation and mudra teacher. And I'm a Reiki practitioner, and I have all these other things that I do in this other part of me. And that is really what grounds me, I would say. That's when I'm able to take that fear and bring it to my meditation mat and figure out what to do with it and sort of channel it to be more of a superpower than something that's going to hold me back. And so I look at, okay, well, why am I afraid of that? Like, what is the root of this fear? Let's figure this out. Let's figure out how deep it goes and figure out what ways it is holding me back so that I can move forward without it, or move forward with it, but with it as something that empowers me instead of puts me in a place where I feel small. And so that's what I'm constantly working on doing, is just doing something with it, giving it an outlet to help me and to actually push me forward. Because usually it's the things that we're really afraid of that are the things that we have to do in order to get to that next stage in our journey or next stage in our business. So if you are terrified of something, if you're terrified of doing that advertising campaign because you don't want to be seen, that's the thing you need to do, because that is the thing that's going to get you to the next level in your business. So I'm always just looking at how I can, conquer those fears and make them work for me. And I think I do a good job of that.
Yeah, clearly.
Because I never hold back because there's something that I'm afraid of. I just look at the root of it and then I move forward from there. And things are really uncomfortable. One of the most uncomfortable things I think as you're growing is just the criticism and the expectations that people have of you, the responsibility that comes with having a much larger audience and a bigger platform. So I know those are fears that are shared by a lot of people. It's not just me. And, when I had my first book, that's when I realized, like, okay, there's always going to be people who are critical. You know, there's always going to be that review that you absolutely. It's not because you wrote that book, it's because that person is the right person for your book. You can go to any book on Amazon and every book will have at least a few bad reviews, not because the author did anything wrong or, you know, wrote a crappy book, but just because that person didn't align with the message. And with the next book, it's a much bigger book deal, bigger distribution. It's going to be in bookstores and featured like all around the world. And that means that it will come with a lot of criticism as well, probably a lot more than the last book, just because this one is going to be more out there and all over the place. And so I'm just preparing myself for the reality that is coming, which is that there are going to be people who hate it and who criticize me. And I hate when people personally attack you instead of just saying, I don't like this book at all. But those are things that you have to deal with. When I did my TEDx talk, people hate talk. Women get back to the kitchen and things like that. And you know, again, that's always gonna happen. And I think especially with the brand like She Takes on the World, people kind of sometimes roll their eyes. And I've had death threats from some of these misogynist groups. It's just crazy. And again, you just have to, that's part of this bigger platform. And I'm not going to hold myself back and stay small just because there are these people who are, you know, giving me a hard time, because that's what they want you to do. They want you to stay small and not grow any further because of their actions. So I think just that criticism and then the expectations of, you know, there's a pressure there when there's so many people waiting for that next thing that you're putting out, or when your launches, or even just a weekly video. Like I know a lot of people who are like, well, I haven't updated my blog in months, or, you know, I haven't got around to doing that video, but I really want to start doing a regular video series. You know, when you have a lot of people following you, you can't do that. Like if I just totally disappear for a few weeks and just didn't update She Takes on the World and didn't tell people what was happening or where I was, I would be getting tweets and messages from people saying like, where the hell are you? Like, what happened? Are you okay? Are you alive? So, you know, there's that pressure that you do always have to be creating and doing something different. But again, those are just normal fears, and you have to find a way to deal with them in your own way. I've also trained in EFT, and that has helped. So you just need to find a way that works for you to, you know, be able to lay those down and just surrender them, because otherwise you're always going to stay in the same stuck place and you're not going to achieve your greatness. And I think a lot of people don't achieve their fullest potential because they stay small because of what other people think. And I have in the front cover of my annual plan, I have the note, don't let the noise of other people's opinions drown out your own inner voice, the Steve Jobs quote. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people. And it's your responsibility to always trust that you're going where you want to be going and where you need to be going. And you have to just let all that other noise go and you need to drown it out.
I love that. I think it's easier said than done.
Totally.
So important. You have to have a bit of a thick skin to put yourself out there, right?
Yeah. And you know, it gets thicker. So when I first started blogging years ago, when I was building my first business and traveling the world, it was, you know, that's when I would get really hurt by certain comments or people attacking me or attacking my opinion. And then I realized, you know, if I'm going to do all these things that I want to do, this is only going to continue to happen and happen in a much bigger way. So you just need to find a way of dealing with it. And I have found my way of dealing with it. It doesn't mean that it's easy. It's never easy to get criticized, and I think you have to take the constructive criticism and then try to distance yourself as much as possible from anything that will drain your energy. So, you know, I have my team and they're like my gatekeepers now. So if anything is really negative, I just say, I don't want to hear it. Like anything that you know is going to affect my energy or bring me down, like it doesn't get through that gate. It doesn't come into my
I love
orbit,
that.
like,
Like a criticism team.
Yeah, because and they are quite capable of taking any criticism that we need to be paying attention to and working on. They take that and they put it into more positive, more positively worded feedback of like, these are some things that we need to be working on, and we work on them. Like, we're not perfect. We do our best, but we're not perfect. No company is perfect. No person's perfect. So, it doesn't mean that I don't want to read the attacks, because then, if I have to write that day and it's a writing day and I have the next 8 hours ahead of me just carved out for writing, that's all I'm going to be thinking about, right? I don't want it. I don't want to see it. I'll often turn off YouTube comments if there's any sort of, if there's anything that I'm talking about that is a little bit controversial, I just turn them off, because filters through all of those, and that's great. And if you have an opinion that is, if you're debating me, that's totally different. I welcome people sharing their opinions and saying, actually, I think you're wrong on this, as long as it's not a personal attack, right? So I'm totally fine with people, having different opinions. We all have differences of opinion, and that's what makes the world so beautiful. But it's the attacks that I just try to stay away from as much as possible. And every now and again, I'll see one on Twitter, but those are usually just trolls and people without real names and real faces. So I don't really care much about them. Although some of the comments are pretty nasty.
Yeah, there's a lot of terrible, terrible trolls on the internet. It's like, don't read the comments. But this kind of reminds me of one of Brene Brown's recent interviews. I posted this in one of my blogs, but she talks about making a list of the people whose opinions actually matter to you, like really, really matter. So whether it's your partner, whether it's your business coach, your best friend, make a list of those people. It should be like 5 to 8 people. And so, for example, she gave an example of how her husband had given her a compliment on something, and some stranger had given her an insult, and she spent so much time stressing about this one person's opinion that in her everyday life means absolutely zero. So why was she weighting her husband's opinion so small? And so she just encourages people to get that list together, like figure out whose opinion matters, check in with those people. And where is there truth to that criticism, and where is it just somebody being a troll and has...
Because for an author, right, you could have 1,000 reviews. 999 could be shining, raving reviews, and you could get one review that was like, this is such a piece of shit. Like, I wasted my time, my money, and it's just so nasty. And that's the one that you're going to think about, even though there's 999 other people who are like, this is fantastic. And those are the people that matter. Like, when my next book comes out, I created this for my community, first and foremost. The fact that I got this amazing book deal and it's going to be everywhere is just icing on the cake. And I know a lot of people need what I'm putting out there, but really it's my community that inspired this whole book. And so if they like it and they're happy with it, then I'm happy.
If you've changed, however many people's lives, and one person didn't resonate with your message, it's like, clearly, it would be such a disservice not to get your work out there, because look how many people have been affected by what you're doing, right?
Exactly. Yeah, focus on them.
Oh, amazing. I feel like I could chat with you all day and just like hurl a million questions.
I would love to talk to you. Yeah.
I so appreciate all of your insights and your advice, and it's really amazing just to see this incredible trajectory that you're on. I think there's lots to learn from what you've been up to. So thank you so much for your time. And
thanks for being with me on my journey. I wouldn't be able to do it all without you. So thank you.
Hopefully we both learn from each other.
We definitely do.
So where's the best place for people to find you? I know you've got She Takes on the World, you've got theconquerclub.com.
Yeah, come on over to shetakesontheworld.com. Or, I mean, if you want to get to know us a little better and see what we're all about, then shetakesontheworld.com/conquer course would be a good place to come. And that's our free 14-day Conquer course. So it's kind of it's like a crash course in conquering, and she takes on the world. And exactly, it gives you a good taste of what we're all about and what you can expect from us in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Thank
Natalie.
you. Bye, everyone.
Take care.